Well, now I have a new modeler I want to introduce, Alfanso Moreno. He has a company, AXM Paper Space Scale Modelers. And I wanted to talk about his company, but he is going to build on our show one of his paper models of the SpaceX Dragon module in O scale, 1/48 scale. And I think that this might be have the potential to be a new industry, or at least new traffic on a lot of people's model railroads. So, Alfonso, I appreciate you doing this. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and about the products and so forth that you have?
Thank you, Jim. Now, officially, again, I thank you for inviting me, for allowing me to speak to the group. Hi, gentlemen. I'm from Port St. Lucie, Florida. And yes, I have a website, AXM, that is my initials. And I've been doing this for quite a long time, even before I had a computer, the old school way, designing paper models with just a calculator, knowing how to scale up and down, a ruler, a protractor, in the old days. But then when I got a computer, then I had to relearn and how to make a model in a computer. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. I have presented a PowerPoint presentation for you guys, and I will make an introduction talking about my website, what is about, how I approach in the design of these models, and the tools, etc. So let me share my screen. I decided using my iPad. My computer is kind of slow. That's why I am going to be using my iPad. And allow me. Can you see the slides?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So yeah, when Jim approached me, inviting me to this group, I was kind of surprised because you guys make the topic is totally off. I don't make trains, but he was interested in the scale that I work on. This model is the O scale, which at that time it was kind of new to me. I didn't know what was the O scale, but other than that, it's the same as 1/48 scale. So being on the same page, yes. Most of my models are smaller scales, 100 over 1 over 144th, 1 over 100th. And I decided then to do this model in 1/48 scale. It's about the SpaceX Crew Dragon space vehicle. It's a version 2 of the Dragon that Elon Musk designed. The version 1, it was a simple capsule that was in charge of bringing payloads to the space station. Then it evolved into the Dragon number 2. There are 2 variants. The one that you see here is actually the Crew Dragon. You could even see the windows there for the crew. But there was a similar vessel like this that was only to bring cargo on the trunk. So paper models, for me, I've been doing this for quite a time. If I can go back to, and this is part of my studio, and my signature model is right there, a space shuttle. Why is that? It's because I was more in during the space shuttle era is when I started making these paper models. But if I can go back to my childhood, I live in New York, and back in the 70s, I was hooked up to the TV watching the Apollo missions. it was then that I feel attracted to everything about rocket launches, etc. And happened that our town, Copake in Long Island, we were very close to Bethpage. Bethpage, if you want to know, is where back in the days, the Grumman Aerospace Corporation was located there. And that is a place where the lunar lander was made. As a matter of fact, my dad, I remember, used to have some friends working at that base, at plant. He used to bring me stuff, pamphlets, brochures of the lunar lander. But it was not until I came across with a paper model of the lunar lander. The Gulf Oil Company back then, they were selling these little paper models in the gas stations. And I think it was then that I never knew that years later I would end up making similar paper models. I have my own logo. I started designing it in 1998. It was then that the idea came to me to show the models that I started designing to the public. The logo has that oval with three colors, has the colors of the Ecuador's flag. That's the country where I was born. You could see the space shuttle going to space, trailing a sequence of a assembly of the paper model. You could see a little paper there with a drawing of the shuttle. It's being cut, and then more parts are being added. So in essence, that is my logo that represents how how the model comes together. This is the banner of my website. You can see the space shuttle, and that is a paper model that I made, a logo. And that was my first space shuttle model done in cardstock and paper that I made in the early 2000s. So there you go. That is paper. Then I realized that I just noticed that for every shuttle mission, there were some changes being made to the shuttle and to the tank. So I started doing research, and this helped me put together a log that is available at my website, and it's a great guide for modelers, the space category, to see if they want to make a particular space shuttle mission. They can see what changes that orbiter had to go through and the details. The same thing, changes in the external tank. Let me go here. So you can see, if you go to my web page, you are gonna see a bunch of space shuttles, and each one is different than the other. I went online in 2006. A year later, I was fortunate to know that my website was among most of the other websites that were doing paper models as well. That opened a lot of doors for me and for my website. You can see the logos there of NASA and other agencies that little by little they discovered the models that I was presenting in my website, and I feel that, you know, I felt so fortunate. In 2009, an Australian magazine approached me, and they wanted me to make a model of the space station, but for kids. So that's one of the designs that I made. It was available in a magazine, and then it went online. I'm from Ecuador, and in the early 2000s, Ecuador was able to launch its first nano satellite. which I made a model of it, and the agency of Ecuador allowed me to present those models on their website. Glenn Research Center also approached me to design one of the payloads that was being prepared to go to the International Space Station. This particular model that you can see there was highly accurately. And why I say that, because they provided me with blueprints, all the measurements, everything. So I was delighted to present that model in full detail. Otherwise, if I would have only need some photos, and the details would have not been so accurate. Same thing with Goddard Space Center. They sent me a lot of technical information for me to model their spacecraft, the MMS. This was in 2014. It's called the the magnetosphere multi-scale spacecraft. I was very lucky with this model, because at the end they invited me to the actual launch of the spacecraft. NASA also had a program to take your child to work day. So they wanted me to share my graphics, the skins that covered the paper models, for NASA to bring kids and to make their own rockets with my graphics. That was something, cool. This is the model of the space station, a paper model space station. The scale is 1/100, very detailed. It took me at least 2 years just to research everything about every element. And Glenn Research Center was able to make that, to put together that same model and present it during their 75th anniversary. But it was not until 2020 that I got an email from a museum in Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville is close to Boca Chica, and if it rings a bell, Boca Chica is where Elon Musk has the facility, the launch facility for their Starship. So I was lucky enough to present. They wanted me to present SpaceX related paper models, including our topic, the model that you see at the bottom right. That's the Crew Dragon, and 12 models SpaceX related, including Falcon, Starships, and the Crew Dragon, and Falcon Heavy were presented during the exhibition to the public. I was also invited to attend the actual launch facility, and back then, this was the beginning of the Starship program. You could see me there, standing right next to the prototype of Starship called the Starhopper. Johnson Space Center is it's in Houston, Texas, and that is a center where they monitor and they do everything related to the International Space Station. So I got an email from someone who worked at Johnson Space Center, and they surprised me because they've been building my crew vehicles, my cargo paper models, and they have been displaying it in the very console in front of everybody who is working there. You could see on the bottom, on the photo on the right side, I'm highlighting the area where the AXN paper models are being placed. So when I started doing paper models, now that I have a computer, then I had to do some research and what are the programs that I would need to use. Basically, these are vector graphic programs. Mainly, I use Adobe Illustrator, but that is not a free program. You can have a license to use it, or you can pay a subscription, monthly subscription to use it. But there is an open source program for whoever is interested in this. It's called Inkscape. And by the way, I don't have any. I'm not making any money by announcing or advertising these programs. But these are the programs that I use. The Adobe Illustrator, Inkscape is doing the same thing. But what is a vector graphic program? So when you design, when you draw, you're actually drawing only lines. And these lines, what are called the vector lines, when they are enlarged, they don't lose the quality. The resolution is maintained. It's very different than when you use a program, when you use a program that it's not a vector program like a bitmap, if you enlarge it, you're going to see pixelated image. Making paper models in the space category, actually, you are doing the basic geometrical shapes, like a cylinder or a cone or truncated cones. In this picture, I'm showing you a cylinder. What it consists is the body. Now you will need to know the diameter, the circumference, and for the truncated cone, also that would be a trial and error if you want to do it without having a program that will allow you to do it. So there are obviously in the old days when there was no computers, I had to do with math, with a calculator, looking for getting the radius, how to get a circumference, and that way I can make a cylinder. But now there are programs that will allow you to do that. And the program that I mostly use is called Cone Layout, but that is not a free program. Template Maker, it is an open source. It's free, and the results are the same. So whoever is trying to make, for example, a cone, truncated cone would be that area in the rocket that will be a transition between a larger diameter and being connecting to another part of the rocket that has a shorter diameter. This is how the program looks. You put the numbers, you put the upper diameter, lower diameter, and you have the template to import into your vector program to start designing. The same thing. This is the Template Maker app that will allow you to make a truncated cone. Now, why I say this is because when I design models, first I have to make a sketch. Once I decide what scale I use, I draw I make the design and the program, and then I start getting those numbers, the measurements. I use the metric system, and I put that information into the Cone Layout app, and I get that template that will allow me to do that part in paper. Same thing when I design. I have been making the Starship model, and here's an example of a nose cone. So what you see in the computer is the nose cone has segments, has rings. In order to do an individual ring, I get the templates here on the left. You could see all the rings that will make the nose cone. I will add connecting tabs, and you could see how once I complete ring by ring, they're being glued on top of each other, and that's the way how the nose cone is being put together. In this picture, I'm using a metallic cardstock. Tools and cardstock, that you need to know what type of paper you're going to use for the paper models. The basic tools, the background surface is a cutting mat. That's the green surface that is in the background. I use an X-Acto knife, and the blade that I commonly use is number 11, if you want to know. tweezers, scissors, ruler, and there's a scoring tool that will allow me to, it will allow me to fold and score parts of the model. I also have make use of different rods, wooden rods with different widths, and it will allow me to curve small pieces from the model. For the most part, I use water-based glue, in this case, the Elmer's glue. I also use glue stick, and from some parts of the model, I make use of crazy glue like Loctite. Paper, it's cardstock with a width between 90 to 100 index weight, pounds of weight. Comparing to what is a standard paper, you could see I put in I on purpose in this slide, I put together in the middle what is the width of a regular paper. It's 20 pound weight, comparing to the cardstock that I use to make my models is 110. If I convert that into grams, we're talking about 165 to 200 grams of the paper width that I use to make the models. So this is the Crew Dragon. It's a preview of what I will be presenting next week. You can see it's very high, it's fully detailed. It has a trunk, and it has a nose cone on the top that it opens, where you can see the docking mechanism. In this case, the Crew Dragon only docks to the space station. The front and the back, this was one of the early designs when they put logos of SpaceX and the Dragon in the front and the back. But the current library, they made some changes, and I will show you in the next few slides. But this model, as you can see, being from the front, you can see the two windows. The front doesn't, the trunk doesn't have the solar panels. It's in the back. You can see the black area. That is the solar panels covering the entire back of the spaceship. From left to right, Elon Musk is showing here all these designs. From left, the number of windows were more, and there were 3 in the front and 1 on each side. That was a configuration only to test the launch escape system. Notice that the capsule, the top capsule, has openings on each side. Those are called the Draco exhaust openings, where the exhaust will come out from those openings in case of an abort during launch, and the crew will be that will be their way to escape. The other the photo on the right shows another variant of the Dragon 2 that is not for bringing crew to the space station, but bringing payloads in the trunk. This is a comparison between the real vehicle taken from space, approaching the International Space Station. The nose cone is open, and you could see the docking mechanism. And on the right is my paper model. The paper model is based on photos, so I'm doing my best in getting all the details. The model that you're going to see me building is pretty much this. Consists of 2 parts: the capsule, which is fully detachable from the trunk. We can put, where you're gonna see me putting magnets in between the two that will connect. I have two scales. The bigger scale that we're going to be talking about is a 1/48 scale, and the smaller is the 1/100. Here it is. This is the smaller 1/100 scale compared to the larger 1/48. This is a prototype, but pretty much this is what we are going to be building next week. I'm going to show you this. It's pretty cool what happened here. These photos show the logo of the Crew 1 mission. That was the official launch of a Crew Dragon, bringing 4 astronauts to the space station. That happened 2 years ago. One of the astronauts was a Japanese, so it was a mission that carried the first Japanese aboard a Crew Dragon. The astronaut he actually contacted me via Instagram, and he showed me that he downloaded the model. This was 1 month before his actual mission was going to take place. He built the model and he presented it to some journalists and some TV people in Japan. And they prepared their program and they streamed the actual launch using my 100 scale model, the Falcon 9 with the Crew Dragon. So if whoever is interested in following this build along next week, the model is available at my website. You can go to www.axmpapermodel.com. I think Jim has put the link of my website there for everybody to go. And in the manual, you're going to see a Falcon 9 category. It has 11 pages of different models that I have made throughout all these years. But the last model is the one that we're going to be talking about next week. And here, this is the library, the current library. You could see the Falcon, a dragon head in the front, and in the back, the X from SpaceX company. The PDF file is a free download. It consists of 8 pages. Pretty straightforward how to build them. But as I say, that page has also 2 links to the actual assembly instruction manual that you can go by and see how this is being made. But next week, I'm pretty excited, and I'll be showing you step by step how to build a capsule first. I think, Jim, that's what I wanted to talk about. And if somebody has any questions.
Alfonso, I can't thank you enough. I think this is going to be very interesting and fascinating. And I don't think we could find anybody with more knowledge about the space program to do this for us than you are. So thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to being with you next week to see the start of the build.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
I want to mention here, as you are describing your techniques and all, you're talking about space, but I can think of a lot of model railroad projects that could use what you're doing, whether you're building a silo on a farm, or that you see going across the country, you see fuselages for Boeing 737s. All of them have shapes and such that your techniques would allow a modeler to do. So what you're doing, we could build upon for a lot of other model railroad focused projects. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you.
That's exactly what I'm hoping part of this is going to help all of us with, because the way that I've never seen paper modeling like this before, particularly with the kind of detail that Alfonso puts in his models and the work and so forth that he puts into it. So I think that it's going to be great to give us all some ability to think about building some models in paper that we've never thought about before. So thanks for the question, and Alfonso. We'll see you next week. Thanks again.
You're welcome, Jim. Thank you.
That was
Yes,
just great. Thank you. Well.